Hello everyone, XV here from youtube.com/XVRogueGaming, and this is the 8th video in a weekly series I'm doing for Dotacinema designed to take your game to the next level. Congratulations to this week's winner, Sarcastic Banshee, for posting a suggested topic in the comments for last week's tutorial. Remember that your topic doesn't need to be the one chosen. All you have to do to win is be subscribed to my channel and let me know something you'd like to learn about. This week's video is about team composition and laning configurations. Keep in mind that this episode assumes you understand the differences between support, gankers, carries, semi-carries, and how to play each one effectively. If you don't, I'd recommend you watch the Understanding Your Roles series on my channel before this one. The next step to effective play, though, is assembling a team that actually functions. When building an effective team, it's important to consider what has already been chosen. Barring specific strategies and particular hero synergies, the most common team composition is 2 support, 1 team fight, 1 semi-carry or ganker, and 1 hard carry. Too much support will leave you suffering in the late game, but too many carries and you might lose before you ever get to the late game. It's all about balance, and the above ratio is a safe bet. Exceptions do exist, and we see them from time to time even in professional matches. Heavy early game push strategies are a good example, but you will rarely, if ever, see more than 1 hard carry in high skill games. Let's take a quick look at the principles from each lane. The easy lane earned its name from being the safest lane for the most part. If farmed effectively, it is also typically the highest gold per minute. This is because it spends an ample amount of time out of either tower's range, and it's easy to avoid ganks. The middle lane is much more difficult to farm effectively in. While it's similarly safe against ganks, you spend a lot more time under tower range, which increases the difficulty of last hitting. There is also the element of harassment. With access to runes and a bottle, heroes with spell-based harassment will play less conservatively with their mana, and it's easy to be pushed out of lane. Note that there is a sub-element of ganking other lanes, but that is discussed in my dedicated ganker episode. Lastly, the hard lane or suicide lane is named such because of how dangerous it is. There are so many angles to be attacked from, and you are easily cut off from the safety of your tower. Most heroes can't farm effectively here, even with support. Once the lane is pulled, it would be suicidal to pursue past for last hits, and normally requires you to move back. Overall, this is the lowest gold and experience per minute lane. While there are exceptions, the 2 most common configurations are 2 hard, 1 mid, 2 easy, and the slightly superior 1 hard, 1 mid, 1 jungle, 2 easy. When choosing a hero, there are 3 basic questions you should ask yourself that stem from the team composition and lane overview we've just discussed. Who's going middle? Who's going hard lane? And do we already have a carry? You'll notice that the only thing that changes between the 2 common configurations is one of the heroes goes to the jungle instead of the suicide lane. This is because a hero with a proper escape skill can play a bit more risky in the hard lane to maintain their farm, and make up for any lost gold by having an increased experience per minute. Barring specific exceptions such as a solo easy lane carry, you should only pick a jungling hero if you have an ally who can, at least on paper, solo the suicide lane. Often I see this factor overlooked, and a lost game is hung on the shoulders of the person relegated to the hard lane. The reality is that if your hard lane player does not have a getaway, they should not be sent to solo. They will either die repeatedly, or spend too much time out of lane to be even remotely effective in the mid game. You're losing the lane, and potentially the game, before the timer even starts. Certain heroes fare better in middle than others. Typically this is because of spammable spells that do well when combined with a bottle. Other heroes, notably gankers, want middle for the early experience advantage and do their best to farm without being too heavily harassed. The easy lane is for your carry, and the choice of support you send with them is also important. Some supports are more offensive, designed to harass or set up ganks. Others are more defensive, geared more towards survival. I find that offensive support work best in the easy lane, and defensive support fare better for overall team composition in the hard lane. Lastly, try to avoid stacking 2 melee in the same lane. In my opinion, almost all teams need at least 1 teamfight hero. Typically team fight heroes fall under support, but they can also cross-classify as jungler or even ganker. Make sure that you have at least one large team fight ability if you want to play a typical game. If you don't, you'll need to focus on isolating and picking off enemy heroes before pushing, and it will be a very uphill battle for you in 5-on-5 engagements unless you have a large lead already. If they're not also a ganker, then typically they are best placed in the hard lane with the support. While there are a few other unique configurations such as carry support duo mid, I hope you found this video useful for taking your game to the next level. Remember that it's you who decide the topic, so be sure to post in the comments below what you'd like to see next week, and subscribe to my channel to be eligible to win. As always though, if you like this video, please thumbs up, share, and check out my channel for more in-depth guides and exclusive content and contests. Until next week, this is XV, signing out.